By the powers vested in me as Vice Chancellor and Principal, I hereby constitute this assembly as a legal congregation of the University of Pretoria. During this assembly, degrees and diplomas with all the associated rights and privileges will be conferred and awarded to the candidates whose names appear in the program. We request all of you to join us in silent prayer or meditation to give thanks for the achievements of our students. Thank you. As Vice Chancellor and Principal of the University of Pretoria, I extend a hearty word of welcome to you at this virtual graduation ceremony. I would like to welcome the Dean and Deputy Dean of the faculty, along with all persons to whom degrees and diplomas will be conferred and awarded. We also welcome families, friends and spouses to this virtual graduation ceremony. This is not the ideal way we would like to celebrate your achievement. It is disappointing that I cannot shake your hand and congratulate each one of you in person, and that you cannot walk across the stage to the ululation and cheers of your family and friends, with their cell phones raised to capture your momentous occasion, and that you cannot gather en masse to take photos with your family and classmates that will forever take pride of place in your homes. But even if it is not the ceremony we all dreamed of, this graduation is still a source of immense pride and acknowledgement. It is an online ceremony because in this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, it is not possible to hold large gatherings. Yet in some ways, COVID-19 has made this graduation and your achievement even more special. Because you did it despite COVID-19, you did it despite all those things that turned your life upside down. You did it despite your teaching and learning moving from UP's interactive hybrid mode to 100% online almost overnight. Even if connectivity was an issue, even if your circumstances were not always conducive to online learning, even if some of you found that your studies made you instant frontline workers, fighting the pandemic at the coalface, you did it. You persevered, worked hard, and if you stumbled along the way, you turned it into a stepping stone from which to pick yourself up and rise again. You did it against all the odds. You are a graduate and you achieved this during one of the most difficult periods in recent world history. We are so proud of you and so thankful to all those who invested in you and supported you in countless ways in your journey towards crossing this finishing line. It may have been a difficult finish line to reach. Some of you have suffered personal losses during this time. And to you, as well as to those whose loved ones are now battling the effects of this virus, we hold you in our thoughts. In the past 18 months, we have learned how precious life is. There are 9 online ceremonies over 5 days honoring both undergraduates and postgraduates across all 9 of the university's faculties: education, theology and religion, law, economic and management sciences, natural and agricultural sciences, engineering, built environment and information technology, humanities, veterinary science, health sciences, and the Gordon Institute of Business Science, popularly known as GIBS. To top it all, just over 10%, that is a massive 150 of you, are graduating with PhDs. If you consider that a PhD or Doctor of Philosophy is the highest academic level, awarded for original research that contributes to knowledge creation in a particular field or discipline, that's more than impressive. Graduates, today is a major milestone and you deserve to be celebrated. You have laid a new path for you and your family. But your dreams and ambitions don't end here. By becoming a graduate, you are joining the ranks of the next generation of thinkers, doers, innovators, people who make a difference. And you have done it the UP way, which is about making a difference every day. And you can do so with confidence, knowing that you have been equipped with everything you need. Whether you are continuing your studies or going into the workplace, by choosing the University of Pretoria, you chose a university that not only provided you with the appropriate professional and technical skills, but strove to give you an all-round education that made you sensitive to the context and needs of others, adaptable, able to collaborate, and socially engaged citizens, rooted in your locality, yet able to think and act globally. But we are not just an ATM that provided you qualifications. We didn't issue in a vacuum. We embedded large-scale community engagement into our curriculum. Chances you are one of the over 30,000 people who studied one of the 300 modules available to those who participate in community engagement annually. These approximately 3,000 projects engage with about 1,000 community partners and contribute almost 72 million rand per year to the local economy in terms of working hours. UP is the leader in South Africa in the fields of electrical and electronic engineering, mathematics, accounting and finance, and theology, divinity and religious studies. And UP's mineral and mining engineering was ranked among the top 50 in the world, according to the 2021 QS World University Rankings by subject. UP performs strongly because we're a proudly research-intensive, innovative African university. We produce high-quality, cutting-edge research that is transformative, impactful, and relevant to creating new African futures. We strive beyond excellence because, as Chris Brink, former Stellenbosch and Newcastle University Vice-Chancellor, argues in his book, The Soul of a University, Why Excellence is Not Enough, we address what we are good at and for. UP is the top-ranked university in South Africa in advancing the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals for industry, innovation and infrastructure, and life on land, which is testimony to our balanced approach to human and economic development. Those of you going into the workforce can feel secure knowing you are highly sought after as a UP graduate. UP is ranked among the top 4 South African universities in the QS 2020 Graduate Employability Survey, backed up by our own Graduate Destination Survey, which found that within 6 months of graduation, 93% of UP graduates are employed either full-time or part-time, with almost all finding that their degrees are relevant to their jobs. And in turn, employers rated UP graduates as displaying 80% readiness for the workplace. UP is all about reimagining and reconstructing a better future for South Africa and our continent, Africa. This has driven us to be involved on multiple levels since the pandemic broke out, from transdisciplinary research on how the virus infects people, to participating in international COVID-19 clinical trials, to the production of sanitizers, face masks, and face shields. We are also researching genome profiles to be able to identify who in the population is at higher risk of contracting fatal viruses and other diseases. And we are researching how people in society behave during a pandemic, because if we don't understand this, we cannot manage the spread optimally. Our Faculty of Health Sciences quickly incorporated COVID-19 into its primary healthcare curriculum. It is not only the pandemic that has disrupted our world, which is now also characterized by renewed political strife and wars, economic crises, inequality, poverty, unemployment, and multiplying forms of violence within the domestic sphere, what we call in South Africa gender-based violence and femicide. Since 1994, the University of Pretoria has made a significant contribution to the creation of a new society. We are not only in Africa, but also for Africa. And as can be seen both in our research and in the fact that students have chosen us from 38 countries on the continent, we have transformed the student body. 56% of UP's more than 56,000 students in 2021 are Black Africans. We have signed 24 memorandums of understanding and agreements with other African universities, and we work together. Excluding South African institutions in the past 5 years, we've co-authored 1,780 publications with collaborators from 330 institutions across the continent. You, our graduates, represent our hope for the future. You have the skills, the SARS, and the power to change your community, your country, the continent, and the world. You can make an impact. We want you to enjoy success and improve the lives of others. Every bit counts. Go out and play your part. For over 100 years, this university has been unwavering in its commitment to producing upstanding citizens. Our 300,000 successful alumni are testament to this. Many are household names who are continuing to make their mark in fields such as agriculture, business, engineering, education, health, politics, media, and on the stage and screen. And we dare not forget on sport fields. UP has always been a sporting powerhouse. We cannot all be the gold medalists who broke the world record at the Tokyo Olympics, as University of Pretoria alumnus Tatiana Schoonmaker recently did. But in our eyes and those of your family, friends, and community, you are all gold medalists today. We love to stay in contact with you. We want to share your hopes and dreams and successes. Download our app, UP Alumni Connect. It is the best way for you to be updated on the latest developments at UP and to network with fellow alumni. No matter where you end up in the world, remember you are part of the UP community. It's a community whose overarching strength is diversity in terms of staff, students, courses, and areas of research. University of Pretoria is an institution on its way to becoming a beacon for diversity and inclusivity, a future-oriented university that is a driver of social change. And you are now one of its graduates. Congratulations again. I hereby confer and award all degrees and diplomas in absentia with the associated rights and privileges to all candidates whose names appear in the graduation program.
Doctor of Philosophy, Stephanus Aiki. Thesis: Diversity, nesting behavior, thermoregulation and cephalic secretions of termites from 2 Nigerian savannas. Supervisor: Dr. A. Yusuf. Co-supervisor: Professor C. W. Perk. Mahukpe Ayelo. Thesis: Identification of pheromones for the biological control of Merrick and Westwood, 2 major pests of tomato, Solanum lycopersicum L. Supervisor: Dr. A. Yusuf. Co-supervisor: Professor C. W. Perk. External co-supervisor: Dr. E.M.M. Delatray. Bethlehem Bekele. Thesis: Semiochemicals from the African weaver ant and their repellency on mango fruit flies. Supervisor: Dr. A. Yusuf. Co-supervisor: Professor C. W. Perk. External co-supervisor: Dr. E.M.M. Delatray. Kelly Brannan. Thesis: Broiler performance and avian uncoupling protein mRNA expression during acute heat stress as influenced by thermal manipulation and dietary fat source. Supervisor: Dr. C. Jansen van Rensburg. Iman Davelbait. Thesis: Studies on sandfly resisting habitats, plant feeding patterns, and volatile loam in a leishmaniasis endemic area of Kenya. Supervisor: Professor C. L. Soul. Co-supervisor: Professor B. Toto. External co-supervisor: Dr. D. P. Chuasi. Juanita Engelbrecht. Thesis: Population genetics and genomics of Phytophthora cinnamomi. Supervisor: Professor N. van den Berg. Quentin Guignard. Thesis: Visual and chemical ecology of Cyrex noctilio. Supervisor: Dr. J. D. Allison. Co-supervisor: Professor B. Slippers. Minette Havinger. Thesis: Biology and pathology of the Eucalyptus foiler pathogen Teratosferia destructans. Supervisor: Dr. J. Aylward. Co-supervisor: Professor M. J. Wingfield. Co-supervisor: Professor B. D. Wingfield. External co-supervisor: Professor L. L. Dreyer. External Co-Supervisor, Professor F. Roots. Rowan Jordan. Thesis: The demography and sociality of killer whales, Orkinas orca, at subantarctic Marion Island. Supervisor, Professor P.J. N. De Bruin. External Co-Supervisor, Dr. W.C. Oosthuizen. External Co-Supervisor, Dr. R.R. Reisinger. Mubanga Kabwe. Thesis: Metagenomic analysis of the South African human gut microbiome. Supervisor, Professor T.P. Makalanyane. Caroline Kungu. Thesis: Biological traits, plant sugar feeding patterns, and chemical ecology of Aedes aegypti. Supervisor, Professor C.L. Soul. Co-Supervisor, Professor B. Torto. Co-Supervisor, Professor C. W. Perk. External Co-Supervisor, Dr. D.P. Chouasi. Mapula Lefopane. Thesis: The effects of information communication technology policy alternatives on South Africa's agro-processing industries. Supervisor, Dr. M.W. Kalaba. Mamuloro Malefu. Thesis: Functional characterization of transgenic Arabidopsis plants overexpressing the maize Bowman-Burke serine protease inhibitor gene under biotic and abiotic stress. Supervisor, Dr. B.G. Crampton. Co-Supervisor, Professor B.J. Forster. Tona Mujeku. Thesis: The natural genetic resource in Oreochromis mozambicus and threats from invasive introgression. Supervisor, Dr. T.B. Horo. Co-Supervisor, Dr. M.J. Cunningham. Marja Mostert. Thesis: Genomic consequences of natural and artificial selection in wild and advanced breeding populations of Eucalyptus grandis. Supervisor, Professor A.A. Mayberg. External Co-Supervisor, Professor J.O.C. Borovitz. External Co-Supervisor, Dr. J.J. Acosta Yaramilo. Vilma Nell. Thesis: Ophiostomatoid fungi associated with fungus farming insects in South Africa. Supervisor, Dr. D.A. Duong. Co-Supervisor, Professor M.J. Wingfield. Co-Supervisor, Professor Z.W. De Beer. Celiwe Ngampalala. Thesis: Glucocorticoid responses to capture, captivity, and high environmental temperatures among southern African birds. Supervisor, Professor A.E. McKechnie. Co-Supervisor, Professor A. Ganswind. Co-Supervisor, Professor S.W. Nicholson. Isiguzoro Onyeuziri. Thesis: Extrusion cooking of pearl millet. Effects on sensory attributes of porridges made from pre-cooked flours. Supervisor, Professor H.L. de Kock. Co-Supervisor, Professor J.R.N. Taylor. Matsepo Pasha. Thesis: Functional characterization of pathogenicity genes in Fusarium circinatum. Supervisor, Professor E.T. Steenkamp. Co-Supervisor, Professor M.P.A. Coetzee. Co-Supervisor, Professor B.D. Wingfield. Co-Supervisor, Professor M.J. Wingfield. Josephine Kufelek. Thesis: Influence of reproductive biology on the invasion dynamics of Cyrex noctilio. Supervisor, Professor B. Slippers. Co-Supervisor, Professor J. M. Grief. Co-Supervisor, Dr. J. D. Allison. Yusuf Tola. Thesis: a characterization of the honeybee and stingless bee gut microbiota, a hidden diversity and host-specific microbiomes from sub-Saharan African region. Supervisor: Professor B. Slippers. External co-supervisor: Dr. J.C. Paredes Escobar. Nadia Tokem. Thesis: an integrated pest and pollinator management approach for smallholder avocado farms under different landscape contexts. Supervisor: Dr. A. Yusuf. External co-supervisor: Dr. T.L.M. Dubois. Vanessa Wanja Kamgang. Thesis: new insights into the reproductive behavior and its endocrine correlates in the roan antelope for captive management. Supervisor: Professor A. Gansvent. Co-supervisor: Professor N.C. Bennett. External co-supervisor: Dr. A.C. van der Groot. Andrea Webster. Thesis: non-invasive assessment of trace elements to evaluate African savanna ecosystem health. Supervisor: Professor A. Gansvent. Co-supervisor: Professor N.C. Bennett. Master of Agriculture, Animal Production Management, Sonia De Bruin. Extension: Nokulunga Mente. Master of Agricultural Science, Agricultural Economics, Priska Atieno. Chikumbuzo Banda. Brown Chitekwere. Jody Hattung. Eugene Kango with distinction. Sulinkundla Maseko with distinction. Taiba Miller. Mangoba Mzebele. Brian Mpande. Wantwa Mwangomba. Nashon Ngalande. Musowe Nsakilwa. Valiant Odihambo. Agronomy. Sboniso Magwaza. Arnold Rapela with distinction. Ntlantla Shabangu. In animal science, animal nutrition. Rudy van der Westhuizen. Ivan Griev. Michael Olani. Animal science, production physiology and product quality. Toinette Duvenacher. Kayla Haniset with distinction. Johanna Kreino. Jared Morris. Pasture science. Filmy van Antwerpen. Plant pathology. Maker Luertz with distinction. Master of Consumer Science, Clothing Management. Maria van der Hout with distinction. Food Management. Erin Hodgson with distinction. Master of Science, Biochemistry. Fiona Els. Biotechnology. Manana Dlangalala with distinction. Entomology. Matlala Koka. Environmental Ecology. Liesel Taylor. Genetics. Laura Bishop with distinction. Juanita Hanneman. Johannes Henning. Lomile Kwete with distinction. Pozisa Majaja. Michaela Smut with distinction. Shannon Wilson with distinction. In microbiology, Nadine Kleinans with distinction. Danielle Arnold. with distinction. Garen Townsend, with distinction. Nutrition, Deanre Kapp. In plant pathology, Charlene Kitsia. Chidino Rachilingano. In plant science, Sinetemba Njangase. Sharnai Gauss, with distinction. Elizabeth Matibela. Soil science, Patti Takali. Water resource management, Yulanai Albrecht. Jeremiah Chimundi, with distinction. Edwin Mamecha. Vongani Ngobeni. Nogulunga Biase. Wildlife management, Emily Kudze. Franz Reinecker. Zoology, Emma Jepson. Tasha Westeisen, with distinction. Jessica Roberts, with distinction. Bachelor of Agricultural Science Honours, Crop Science, Stephen Gibson. Calvin Knight. Bioinformatics, Ruth Nante. Food Science, Zenani Nzwana. Zoology, Geraldine Damon. Kayla Osborne. Bachelor of Agricultural Science, Animal Science, Tsehu Kekana. Applied Plant and Soil Sciences, Dirk Blichnout. Abongile Funzo. Jerry Mukwena. Plant Pathology, Michaela Layton. Bachelor of Consumer Science, Food Retail Management, Kiara Hanmonth. In Hospitality Management, Karina van der Merwe. Bachelor of Science, Gerard Mostert. Kwenga Yeni. Bachelor of Science, Biochemistry, Mandla Mahlangu. Mantsumele Phala. Biotechnology, Ngonizashe Chimandamba. Sadashni Govender. Reese Stevens. Food Science, Aaron Govender. Angelique Hay. Itumeleng Matebe. Lifa Rammala. Human Genetics, Sbusiso Yainki. Belinda Mhlanga. Tandolwetu Ndlazi. In Human Physiology, Benjamin Rubin. Felicia Likuleni. Ntswaki Madiba. Chloe Mayring. Kukecho Mulantwa. Nukukanya Mputi. Ulenda Msiza. Sibusisiwe Nxumalo. Senzo Phakathi. Tshegofatso Tabane. Human Physiology, Genetics and Psychology, Nonsindiso Gwala. Nicola Harmon. Batsebiye Mapaila. Tshegofatso Mbere. Riarabilwe Mufukeng. Jillian Munyebodi. Given Murare. Ikaheng Musia. Tato Mutapo. Nyarwai Theory. Caitlin van der Westhuizen. Emma van Dijk. Salome van Eden. Notile Zuma. Medical Sciences, Katleho Litoba. Njabulo Mlochwa. Khotsofalo Pheko. In Microbiology, Lindoguhle Mota. Thembi Rekotso. Siobhan Pereira. Zoology, Stuart Nylon.
Let us give our graduates a big hand for their hard work and perseverance. I would like to thank the families, friends, and spouses and partners for supporting our graduates during their studies. We have now come to the end of the proceedings. Please join us in singing the national anthem. By the powers vested in me, I hereby dissolve this assembly of the University of Pretoria.
Go!